Here's a little reminder of exactly what Suella Braverman said yesterday.
I think the left can only sell its vision for the future by making people feel terrible about our past. White people do not exist in a special state of sin or collective guilt. Nobody should be blamed for things that happened before they were born. The defining feature of this country's relationship with slavery is not that we practiced it, but that we led the way in abolishing it.
I'm joined now by Albie Amankona, who is the co-founder of Conservatives Against Racism for Equality and also a key cog in the Saturday 5 wheel that, of course, airs every single Saturday at 8 till 9 p.m. Albie, look, great stuff. Thank you very much for coming on at the top of the show. What do you make of Suella Braverman's comments, then, that essentially white people don't exist in this special state of sin?
I thought it was an interesting comment. I think Suella Braverman makes a lot of interesting comments. I'm not sure if it really needed to be said. I mean, you'll know better than I will because you're white and I'm black. But do white people feel guilty towards the past? I suspect white people don't walk around feeling guilty all the time, just like black people don't walk around feeling oppressed all the time. I think the question that all people want answered from Suella Braverman is whether or not she's going to stop the boat, whether or not she's going to be able to reform the police, do the things that a Home Secretary is supposed to do. And I'd much rather see Suella Braverman and other Conservative ministers focus on the bread and butter issues, the 5 pledges that need to be honoured by the next general election.
No, indeed, and we're going to come on to that because that news did just drop as I was walking into the studio, apparently about the Cabinet blocking us. So I'll get your views on that in a second. But when it comes to the cultural aspects of it and this sense of guilt, I can't help but wonder, Albie, whether that is having an impact on the way that we are dealing with mass migration. She goes on to talk a lot about multiculturalism and whether or not the quote-unquote sins of our past are preventing us from maybe acting responsibly for wider society today and maybe trying to get a grip of infrastructure before we have this kind of head-first push towards just rampant, essentially uncontrolled mass migration.
Of course, we need to plan adequately for any population increases. But one thing I would say about people criticising the Conservatives' record is, of course, the Conservatives have been in power for 13 years. So if a Conservative minister is essentially inferring that the reason why immigration is so high is because British people and the British government feels guilty about the past, well, guess who the British government is in power of? It's the Conservative Party. It's her party that she stood up for election in. It's her party that she's a key cog in. And if she's going to be trashing the record of the Conservative Party, that doesn't look very good in the lead up to a general election.
No, it doesn't. I do wonder, though, Albie, whether or not she's trying to tap into something like things that are being taught at schools or this sense about, you know, unconscious bias, etc., which seems to be incredibly, incredibly popular at the moment. You said to me then at the top, and I think that you're right, by the way, which is that, you know, white people don't walk around feeling guilty all the time and black people don't walk around feeling oppressed all the time. But I do think that that is a bit of a narrative that's being pushed, though, at the moment, that white people should really feel guilty for historic wrongs and that maybe black people are oppressed and should wear that on their sleeve a little bit more. And I think maybe that's what Suella Braverman's trying to push back on. My take on that would be that leads to a more divisive society as opposed to one that can actually just move forward and crack on with the issues of the day.
But then all that needs to be said is that it's a stupid narrative, not that white people don't need to feel guilty or that black people do need to feel oppressed. By saying that white people don't need to feel guilty, you're essentially affirming an incorrect assertion from the left, which is that white guilt exists. I've never accepted that white guilt exists. I thought it was something that was made up by the liberal left, which is why I'm disappointed to see Suella Braverman basically affirming it by saying that white people don't need to feel guilty. It's a stupid narrative. That's all that needed to be said.
Are you disappointed with the noises that are just coming out pretty much right now, actually, which is that Suella Braverman put forward 5 proposals to try to cut net migration as a whole, and these were, as we understand it, to increase the minimum salaries for companies employing skilled workers, to make it harder to bring spouses to the UK, to reduce the time foreign students can stay in the country after their course, ban them bringing family members and remove students if they fail to finish their course. So that apparently was Suella Braverman's big plan to cut these quite shockingly high net migration figures. However, apparently the Cabinet has been blocking her and only one limited proposal, which would ban foreign master's students bringing relatives with them, has so far been agreed by the Cabinet. And this, I suspect, is one of the reasons why she's being so vocal at the moment, especially on the topic of multiculturalism, which I'm talking about later on in the show. Does it not feel as though maybe the Conservative Party is trying to undermine a Home Secretary with genuine Conservative values?
I think they seem like sensible policy proposals to me, but I also trust that after a robust cabinet discussion that the cabinet will have come to a favourable outcome. Not all cabinet ministers will be happy with that outcome. Perhaps Suella Braverman isn't, but we run a cabinet government in the United Kingdom. If that's a decision of the cabinet, then that is the decision that Conservative ministers have to take.
If she feels so strongly about this, though, there is a strong case to say it's all very well and good getting up and talking at a National Conservatism conference and maybe giving a subtle two fingers up to the Cabinet and your colleagues. But if these are your principles, these are the ones that you stand by, this is, as far as you can see, as Home Secretary of this country, this is the way to sort out what she thinks, and many people think is the biggest issue facing the nation at the minute. If they're blocking her from doing it, has she not got to go?
No, I don't think she has to go. There are always disagreements in cabinet governments. That's why there are cabinet governments. Robust debates are had and then an outcome is agreed upon. I want Suella Braverman to succeed in her role as Home Secretary. And I think the main pledge that she is tasked with is, of course, this task of stopping the votes. It's one of Rishi Sunak's 5 pledges that he wants to achieve before the next general election. I think that is what needs to be focused on.
Albie, thank you very much, as ever, and make sure that you do tune in every single Saturday night, 8 till 9 p.m, for the Saturday 5, where you can see a lot more of Albie Amankona, who is the co-founder of Conservatives Against Racism and Equality.